So my name is Judy Bakieh. I am from the UAE. I'm representing the MENA region in Cannes. We recently won the MENA Young Lions for PR. And hopefully we're here to win the Cannes Young Lions. So that was the local one in the MENA region. So basically we competed with the rest of the agencies in the MENA region. We were given a brief that was about an NGO that wanted to raise funds for African kids. And the idea was that we wanted people to do some fundraising by going on hikes. So the idea was they would have the opportunity to do a Kilimanjaro hike, and they would have to pay to go on this hike, and then the proceeds would go towards the charity. That was the brief that we were given. We were given 24 hours, and we had to come up with a creative idea for it and submit it, and then we won. We won it, and that's why we're here today. So definitely there were a couple of ideas that we did reject, just because sometimes you need to kind of make sure that you stay within the realms of PR and not go towards, for instance, advertising or marketing. You always kind of need to control how far you go with your ideas. And then also at the same time, sometimes there's like a fine line when it comes to NGOs that you don't want to necessarily cross, or how big you want to go. Sometimes it involves governmental involvement. So we try to stay away from that and make it as feasible as possible. And then also that we needed to make sure that it didn't require a lot of budget. So this was really a constraint, that we had to reject a lot of ideas so that we can make sure that this can actually be implemented. So we were thinking, we really wanted to do some behavioral science research, all right, on what drives people to take action. And this was where our insight came, that people tend to take action more when there's emotional spark behind it. And we really wanted to tap into that and make sure that we were touching everyone's emotion and getting to them by having an idea that would resonate with everyone. And this is where we included personal stories, where everyone could upload videos and talk about their experience and why they would want to go on a hike and what it meant to them, and then have donors actually fund their hikes. So the donors were the ones that were actually giving out the money, and then we had the participants that were the ones that were actually going on the hikes. So both parts were winning, and that's how we actually got to our final idea. So I think with the global competition, you have to think universal. You have to find a universal cause that means everything to everyone, right? Because when we had their campaign, it was based on a local brief, right? So we know our market very well. But with the global competition, we need to think universal. We need to think what matters to everyone everywhere in the world, and that's what's going to be different this time. Starting conversations, reaching everyone, having people talk about something that matters, coming up with creative ways of how to spark people's interests about things that might be boring, right? But they're still relevant. So I would say foremost, it's starting a conversation about important issues. I think the most important thing is to have people know that they're not going to be limited, right? I feel some people think, first of all, they don't even understand what PR is. That's the truth. I have a lot of people asking me, what is PR? And it's hard to kind of explain it. But the thing is, we start conversations, and we start conversations about things that matter. And I think maybe raising more awareness about what PR is and the power of PR will really attract people to be a part of such a great movement, because it is. We're starting conversations. We're changing the world. And I think everyone wants to be a part of that. They just don't necessarily know what PR is. So I'd start there.
I'm Asalem, an account manager at Gambit Communications from Palestine and Jordan, and I'm here because I won the PR Young Lions. Exciting! Can't believe I'm here, honestly, for the PR category, for representing the MENA region, and we won it through PRCA in Dubai. Yeah, so basically we got a brief. Usually it's from an NGO, and this time it was about African children and like raising funds for them through Golf for Good, which is an NGO that does hikes for good, basically. So to hike, you raise money and then you get that. So the competition brief, we got that for 24 hours in advance. Got the brief and just started coming up with ideas, and it was really tough, and it was a challenge to have 24 hours to come up with a creative campaign that's 10 slides long, but we managed to do that. And then the next day there was like shortlisting and all that stuff, and then finally we got shortlisted and we were able to present to the judges and we won. So here we get the same exact, it's the same exact competition, but it's, I think the awards and the process is a bit faster than it was in Dubai, but we're gonna get a brief, 24 hours, and do the same exact thing that we did. So obviously I think when you're brainstorming, there's a lot of ideas that you just say them and then they go, but it's kind of like the final outcome of it was kind of a combination of all the discussion points that we had. So how do people actually like want to make a change? What are the insights that we used? So it was like a mixture of all, and in the end that kind of leads up to your creative idea. So it's I can't say I disregarded an idea because it kind of led us to come up with our idea. Yeah, that's, I saw that question and I just said, like, today we were at a PR inspiration session and someone was saying, you don't have to do anything, do the same exact thing that you did to get you here. So it worked the first time, so it might work the next time. But I'm gonna do that, but of course with more confidence, because I feel like the first time you do it, you're not sure if like the idea is that great, and I don't know, it's a bit of maybe self-doubt in the beginning, but now it's like full-on confidence and the ideas and execution, like you just feel more confident after you won that for the MENA region. So the core element of PR, I believe, is communication, and I love communicating, so that's one. And the other one is also like making a change through PR, so like little simple ideas, simple campaigns that can actually lead to a change. The change doesn't have to be, by the way, like a global massive change, but it's even with any like creative that you come up with, there's an outcome out of it. So that really excites me to come up with cool ideas. I think that the talent is there and they want to join. I think it's just about PR agencies giving the opportunity to fresh grads, to someone that wants to do a career shift, or someone that's a junior in another place and they want to try it out. So I think the talent is there and they don't really need to attract it because they want to join. It's just a matter of the agencies giving the opportunity to young talent to help them grow in their career.
Hi, I'm Hurworth and I work at BCW London in the Corporate and Public Affairs team. I'm a senior account executive and I've been there for just over a year now. So I'm relatively new to the PR industry and this competition has been all the more interesting and exciting because of that. But super excited to be in Cannes. Right, so we were competing against around 60 other teams. So my partner and I were paired together and given a brief from the NSPCC, which is a charity that works to prevent child abuse and child neglect. And we were given 24 hours to turn this brief around with a creative concept in the form of a slide deck, so 10 slides illustrating our concept and our creative launch idea. And then a summary brief as well, just explaining the value and impact of our idea. So we put this together in 24 hours and had no sleep whatsoever, stayed in the office overnight. And luckily it was a success and it got us shortlisted. So we were invited to go pitch to a jury of experts. And so we did that. And out of the 6 finalists, my partner Mitra and I were chosen to come and represent the UK in Cannes, which is obviously an honor and just a once in a lifetime opportunity. That's a good question. There were many that we rejected. I think we spent most of the first day of the competition just going through ideas, digesting the brief over and over again. And really, Mitra and I had a basic understanding that no idea was a dumb idea. So we were throwing a lot at the wall and not much was sticking, to be fair. But we had a particular one involving a partnership with the street artist Bakieh. And I think that we got really excited about big ideas like that. And we had to remind ourselves to keep it simple, because sometimes the beauty of creativity is a simple idea and a real actionable, pragmatic idea that kind of gets to the crux of the brief in a really poignant and impactful way. So we kind of scrapped these lofty, ambitious ideas that weren't as feasible and went with something that we felt was really kind of accessible and possible. So we arrived on football as the vehicle through which we would deliver this creative campaign. So we had some advice from creative mentors at work, and we had briefings with strategy as well. So we had a lot of support from BCW, but there's not really a way that you can prepare for 24 hours of kind of intense brainstorm and kind of campaign development. I didn't really expect what was coming and just how exhausting it would be, to be fair. We stayed up round the clock. I know that there were moments where we both felt, to be honest, very discouraged, and we felt like we weren't getting anywhere, especially when we hit kind of 10 p.m. and we were still really scrambling for that golden idea. We started to lose hope. So there's not really any way you can go in it and say, here's our timeline, here's how it's going to happen. It depends on the inspiration and when the inspiration strikes. So luckily we eventually had that inspiration, and once we had that, we were able to run with it. But 24 hours doesn't feel like enough. That's for sure. I think we really, even though I did say we spent a lot of time ideating and trying to come up with our campaign idea, I did feel like we put the pressure on ourselves to have it by a certain time. So we were quite discouraged when we didn't have it by 4 p.m., for example. We thought we were going to be able to wrap up our deck and our summary at a sensible hour, but that wasn't the case. So I think going into the global competition, my partner Mitra and I are both eager to just take as long as we need getting to that idea and really kind of stress testing different ideas and asking ourselves, is this simple? Is this poignant? Is this challenging? A cultural understanding? Is it going to deliver impact? Is it easily understood? Doing those kind of sense checks and making sure that we really nail that idea, because from there, I think deck development and kind of campaign overview and summary, I think that comes easy once you've got the hard part down, which is nailing that golden idea. Oh, that's a good question. Well, this doesn't really count. We both love coffee, and we will be on the coffee for sure. We were making lots of Pret runs last time. I love their popcorn. So if we can find any popcorn in can, we'll be all over it. But probably lots of junk food, lots of caffeine. It's going to be the way. I like how it's a blend of all sorts of disciplines. It feels like a very interdisciplinary industry where you're borrowing from, obviously, media as a massive part of what we do, digital, strategy, you've got journalism, and then behavioral science kind of grounds and founds everything that we do. So I like how it borrows from different disciplines and how there's not really a dull day, because you're constantly running into people with expertise in these different areas and trying your hand at the strategy or trying your hand at the creative or the digital and kind of design elements of it. So I find that very exciting. And at BCW we have quite an integrated team, so I've been able to learn alongside digital experts and strategists, and also try my hand in design and pitching. So it's never a dull moment. We always have different clients and different challenges and different opportunities as well to deliver impactful communications and campaigns for them. So I would say it's never boring, it's never the same, and that's what I really like about it. I think that they need to be cognizant of the fact that barriers are in place, and a lot of people don't feel kind of like it's an easy industry for them to enter, perhaps. It doesn't always present itself as the most understood or accessible career choice necessarily. So I think, partnering with underprivileged communities or partnering with schools, I think is a first step in terms of giving them, a mentorship program or somebody in the industry to look up to so that they can understand it as a realistic career opportunity for them. And then, mentorship schemes I mentioned, but also graduate schemes, internships, any sorts of opportunities to get people involved and get people, dipping their toes in the industry, I think would be really useful. I also think that PR industries or agencies, need to stay across kind of current trends, obviously, but technologies and tools, they always need to be employing the most up-to-date data, for example, so that they can be delivering actual quality consulting to clients. Challenging existing norms or bending norms, bending rules, to think outside of the box and really kind of, challenge conventions in a playful way that is likely to deliver impact and make people stand up and stop and recognize and realize or think and feel something. So I think the word that comes to mind is kind of playing and being playful and just pushing the limits of it.
Hi, I'm Mitra. I work at BCW and I'm here to compete in the Cannes Young Lion competition. So for the UK competition, the brief was for the NSPCC on raising awareness of child abuse, kind of how to spot the signs, and just really lower the number of children who go through this in the UK. So our main activation was around football. It was called United Against Child Abuse, where we would put the 11 signs of child abuse on the child mascots t-shirts as they walked out in a televised football game. Really getting big coverage. It was just a really exciting idea for us. Yeah, so we have 24 hours. It started at 9 a.m. We get the brief. Really just had to digest it. It was quite a hefty brief. Just really dissect it, make sure we didn't miss any key elements. I think a lot of the inspiration from our idea actually came from the brief itself. There was a slight nod to football within the brief. Just really digested it and then spent the whole morning and afternoon really just coming up with ideas. Me and Ella just kind of running them past each other to eventually come up with our main activation, and then from there just kind of spent the evening creating the deck, which was 10 slides, and then just writing up our idea. I think both of us really motivated each other. Ella's just been a fantastic person to work with. Just kind of keeping our motivation up together. We also just took breaks, went on walks. I think when you're working in an office, it's important to just kind of step outside. I think one thing that was kind of daunting to us was kind of how long we were going to spend coming up with ideas. I think we kind of expected to go straight in, 2 hours in, have our idea and kind of go ahead with that. That really wasn't the case. So I think just kind of being aware that you are going to spend so long kind of brainstorming, and really just embracing that process and just knowing that you can then, once you have your idea, it's kind of, it's just a case of, creating the deck and really just presenting it. Yeah, there was quite a lot, to be fair. I think it did take us quite a while to get to our main one, but all the ideas that we did come up with, one of them we wanted to work with Bakieh. We were this is a great idea. Then eventually we were actually, he's never worked with anyone before. We're not going to be able to locate him. So that kind of went out the window. But I think every idea we had kind of made us see the brief a little bit differently. So yeah, I think that there's no kind of shame in having loads of ideas, even if you feel oh, these are rubbish. They do work towards an end goal. That's a really good question. We've had a lot of insight sessions from the PRCA themselves, and kind of talked to people within our agency as well in terms of strategy, how to approach it. So I think, we have a lot of kind of structures, strategy-wise, in terms of how to go about it. So I feel slightly more prepared in that sense. Just kind of how to tackle the brief as soon as we get it. That's a really good question. I've not actually put too much thought into it. We actually bought some Bakieh in the airport. We feel like we need that to like rehydrate, but definitely some crisps, chocolates. We love Diet Coke, both me and Ella, big Diet Coke fans. So yeah, gonna be loaded up with snacks. I think it's just a really great industry to be in. You have the chance to really like change perceptions and influence people and make a real difference. And I think working at BCW, there's been a lot of clients, and just their messaging is something that, you know, we can really work to inspire people and change people's attitudes. So yeah, I think it's a great space to be in that sense. Yeah, I think that's a good question as well. Like, one thing we have at BCW is a partnership with the Taylor Bennett Foundation. I think it's really important getting diverse people into the industry. I think it can be quite daunting, especially when you come out of school or uni, kind of knowing what to apply to. There's so many different roles out there. So I think working with, what do you call them, like organisations like that can really, raise awareness of PR and of those kind of roles. Ooh, I'd say it's really breaking orthodoxies. So looking at like how we've done things conventionally, thinking like how can we change, why do we do it this way? Does it work this way? Is there any way we can kind of change it? If not, I think that's one way that we're kind of going to tackle that's some advice we've been given as well in terms of the brief. Just really question it, like why is there certain attitudes around this topic? Can we change those? So yeah, I think that's what creativity is to me.
My name is Elizabeth Yeung. I work for a company called Cognito Media. So we're actually headquartered in the UK, but we have a Singapore office. It's the headquarters of APAC. And I'm here because my colleague and I entered into the Young Lions PR competition and we won. So we are here in Cannes to compete. The national competition in Singapore, so it was run very much like the Young Lions competition here in Cannes. So we were given 24 hours, we were given a brief, take a look at the brief, structure, come up with your ideas, pull it out into a deck, a slide, and then we submitted it. We were given a couple of days for them to kind of deliberate, and then we were selected as a finalist to present. And we presented, 5 minutes for Q&A, and then that was it. That was history because we won and then we're now here. For sure. I think one thing for us is that what we really did was we actually took a very, very close look at the brief. We wanted to catch, gaps that other teams might not have gotten. So we really dug deep into the brief and there were a huge number of ideas. What we did was we actually had like more than 30. On Post-it notes, we kind of pasted it all over and we started the process of very, very tough elimination. And we kind of boiled down to this idea, which was a little bit more simple, getting to the core of what the idea is, what can appeal to the audience, and then we kind of fleshed it out and we knew that that was something that was feasible yet creative at the same time. Personally, I think understanding what the brief was about was the most stressful in that sense, because it's getting that right, understanding your client, where they're coming from, and then once you actually fully understand it and once you can understand their rationale, then you can really start to get to work and be like, this is exactly what the client wants, this is our idea, it's going to be good because it fits what they need, their resources, and to get that part right, we actually took quite a while to arrive at that point of time. So I think using that, understanding the client's idea, once we got that down pat, I think we were ready to fly. Yeah. I think for the global competition, one thing that we'll definitely keep is, the ideation process of it, really understanding the brief and then just having 45 minutes together for the pure ideation process where we just, in quick succession, just come up with 30 different ideas, narrowing it down to like 1 or 2 that are really, really feasible. And one thing that we're going to do differently, of course, is, looking at the audience as well. I think we're looking at a global audience, a very international one, and that's going to be very different from like a national point of view where we're like, oh, this is, impacted in a Singaporean context and all that, but what we want to do is to make sure that this is an idea that can kind of like traverse different kinds of nations, cultures. So I think that's one thing we're going to do differently. I have packed it all in my bag. I have like cup noodles. I don't know whether you guys have that. It's great. It's spicy. It's gonna get me through the night. So I brought two. I've got like seaweed snacks, all from Singapore. That, you know, if we have any extras, we're happy to kind of share with everyone. But for now, the competition, we're gonna like really focus and get our snacks in. What excites me about working in PR? I think one misconception is that PR is it's a one-track kind of thing, but it's actually not, right? Different kinds of clients, there are different stages of their journeys, and it's helping them and being that kind of counsel and strategic advice. And it becomes, you know, it's always very different. It evolves all the time. You're looking at different clients, huge MNCs to like small startups and all that. How can you bring value to all of them? So in a sense, it's very, very interesting. It's very dynamic. So I think that is what is very, very interesting about PR. I think one thing that PR can definitely do is just think about how we're kind of capitalizing on like new trends. Like AI has been a buzzword for the longest time, sustainability has been a buzzword. How are we incorporating that into like PR offerings? Because everyone's like, oh, PR is very traditional, right? It's what are you guys doing that's new? It's something that's always been a part of everyone's way to raise their profile. How are you guys doing anything new and exciting? So I think in order to attract, I think we really need to find ways to kind of integrate like trends and like sustainability, AI. How can we incorporate it into PR offerings that, you know, can help clients, help our audiences and all that? So I think that's one way to be at the cutting edge of different and new trends. So I think that's one way to kind of attract new people to join us. Creativity means, you know, not just something new. I think creativity has to be that good balance of being new, being different, and also being very impactful as well. Because without the impact, new and different, it's just new and different. But you really want to have the impact for your audience to actually hear it and see it and be like, oh, that's something that I remember and I'm going to take away. And moving forward, that's going to be something that I want to do or like want to use. Yeah, so I think that's creativity to me.
Yeah, my name is Vera. I am from Cognito Media from Singapore, and we won the Young Lions award for PR in Singapore, and now we're at Cannes. Beautiful weather, very sunny, very hot. Yeah, but it's going good, and we're looking forward to competing globally tomorrow. Yeah, so how that came about was one of our colleagues actually reached out and asked anyone want to, be interested, anyone would like to take part. And, I've heard of the competition before when I was in school. They used to send groups, I think, when I was in school, or they used to do like a fake version. So that was pretty fun, and I was really excited to join. So we gave it a go, and I believe normally kind of bigger, kind of global network agencies will send more teams or are more present at these competitions. So we're really excited to give it a go. No one from Cognito has entered before. No one has won before. So that's how it came about. That's how the local competition went. We spent 24 hours, me and my colleague, we were at her house just swimming in Post-its and trying to get the idea out. And before you knew it, we were presenting, and now we're here. Yeah, no, it's a great question. The most stressful part was when we got the brief, because you're ultimately working with a teammate, someone that you work with professionally, and right now you're kind of equals regardless of your rank within the company, and different people tend to interpret a brief differently, right? So getting the brief down and making sure we were on the same page about that was the most important for us, and we spent a lot of time on that, actually, making sure we understood it the same way. That was probably the most stressful part. Once we got that down and we had a direction, we actually just kind of took it and ran, and took it with confidence. Yeah, so I'm sharing a secret here, right? Because this is not going to be released till maybe next year. But what we did was we each sat down with a notepad, like a Post-it pad, and we wrote the craziest, wackiest, just insane ideas, right? No idea is a bad idea. Everyone knows that. And we each aimed for 25, 50 ideas each. So we just went ham. We wrote a bunch of ideas, plastered it over the walls, and then we were super, super brutal. So how it went was we numbered all our ideas and then we talked through them and we just went, makes no sense, cull, and we just ripped stuff up. And sometimes you get attached to an idea and it was just, you know, just relentless, just bad idea. So we had so many ideas, we just ended up ripping up. And then we were going back like, no, actually that was a good idea. Please don't save my idea. So that's ultimately how we got to the last idea, right? We just savagely got rid of everything. And the one that was standing, it survived. It was the best sperm out of everything that came across. And once the baby is made, you take the baby and you run. So my colleague Liz and I are very structured people. And saying you're a type A person at a creativity competition just doesn't sound like a good right match. But because of that, we had a very clear idea about what we had to do. The brief came in our emails, and we knew first step, print the brief out, highlight like hell, make sure you understand it the right way. We had the methodology and we followed it. We didn't discuss it, we just kind of ran with it and we knew what we were doing. So no, I wouldn't say we strategized. We just made sure we finished all that we needed to, and that's about it. I think we need to think bigger, we need to think different. I think a part of us strategizing for the local competition is an awareness that the judges would be local as well. So there was a board of judges, they worked in Singapore, some of them were Singaporean, some of them had experience in industry. So the things that we could reference, right, like local publications, local campaigns, our considerations were quite tailored to the judges. It's probably going to be different this time around because we need to make sure that it's a global appeal. That can be quite difficult given that Singapore is a very tiny dot in a very big world. So we're trying to see how we can kind of come to terms with that and figure out how a little country can come up with a big idea. I think our plan was just to go ham on McDonald's. I had no idea she had a food stash in her luggage. That sounds like a better plan than mine. I was just gonna panic, go to McDonald's, get a beef burger. I love PR. I really, really do. So no one really understands what I do, like in my family. When I was younger, I used to ask kind of people, mentors, colleagues, what exactly is PR? It's fuzzy these days, right? Because marketing and PR and the lines getting blurred and different channels, etc. And someone once told me that marketing and a subset advertising is paying for publicity. PR is getting publicity without paying. And I just thought that was super cool because I was like, why would someone do something for free if other people had to pay for it, right? And that just blew my mind that there were a bunch of people sitting in a room trying to get their companies to look good and not spending a single cent on it. I mean, you hire an agency, you get help, you get people to experience, but you're not actually paying advertising dollars. And I just felt like a lot of brain power is required to make you a good PR professional, and that excited me. I feel like opportunity is really important. So at Cognito, they are really quite, we often say, small enough to big enough to cope, but small enough to care. And I love that because we are kind of a good-sized agency. We have global coverage, but at the same time, there is opportunity for everyone, and they do ask you about your opinions and ask you how you want to contribute. And that visibility and that opportunity to share, I think is really important. Creativity means to me being crazy as hell and ballsy as hell, taking the idea and making sure you're damn sure about it, and doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, as long as you're damn sure about it and you say it with confidence.